Okay, in this video we're going to go over decimal operations. And we're going to go over adding and subtracting decimals and multiplying and dividing decimals. Okay, so adding and subtracting decimals. So when you add or subtract decimals, it's a lot like adding and subtracting regular numbers. But with the exception that when you add or subtract decimals, you align them with their decimals just like you did when ordering decimals. For example, if you're going to add 2.3 plus 0.03, then you would align them as so. You would align. Okay, let me just write it down here. 2.3, and then you align this decimal with this decimal. Okay. Plus, and just like when you were ordering the decimals, you would also fill in the empty spaces with a 0. Okay, and then you would add normally. You would say 0 plus 3, and then that obviously would be 3, and then 3 plus 0, that would also be 3, and then you would bring down the decimal right here, and then, oh, we forgot to fill in this spot with a 0, and you would say 2 plus 0 is 2. So then the answer would be 2.33. And that's how you would add decimals. We're actually subtracting these decimals. Okay, same thing. You would align the decimals. 2.3 minus 0.03. You would fill in the empty spaces with zeros, which would be this space, right? Which would be this space. Okay, and then you would add normally. So in regular numbers, when you add, you borrow from the number before it, right? So this is the same case. You can't subtract a 0 minus a 3 without getting a negative number. So you would borrow. You would borrow 1 from this 3. This 3 would become a 2, and this 0 would become a 10. So 10 minus 3 is 7, right? 2 minus 0 is 2. Okay, don't forget about the decimal right there. And then 2 minus 0 is 2. So the answer to this problem is 2.27. A quick recap on the rules to adding and subtracting decimals. Okay, the first step is to align by the numbers by their decimal places or by their place values. So I would put I'd put 2.3, and then on the bottom I'd put 0.03, and then I put my subtraction symbol. So so I don't forget that we are subtracting. Okay. And then I would fill any empty spaces with zeros. So I have an empty space right here, and I have an empty space right here. Okay, I did that. And then I would add or subtract as you would with whole numbers. So in this one, normally we cannot, as we saw the prior problem, we cannot subtract 0 minus 3. So we'd have to borrow from the 3. This 3 makes it a 2, and then this 0 becomes a 10. So 10 minus 3 is 7. 2 minus 0 is 2. We must be aware to keep the same decimal in its place. So we just bring the decimal down right here. And then 2 minus 0 is 2. Okay, so we just added and subtracted as we would with whole numbers. And 2.27, that would be the answer. Now let's go into multiplying decimals. And this can get a little bit tricky, so bear with me. Also, if you have your calculator and you're allowed to use your calculator on this part of the GED test, then make sure to use your calculator. Because one, it saves you time, two, you have less of a chance to actually getting that problem wrong. Okay, so when you multiply decimals, you arrange both numbers as you would, normal numbers that do not have a decimal. So 2.3 times 3.5. Okay. Then you multiply as you would normal numbers. So in a normal number, I would multiply 5 times 3 first, and that would give me 15. Okay, carry the 1. And then I'd multiply 5 times 2. That would be 10 plus 1. That would be 11. Okay. And then, again, normal number, I would add a 0, right? And then I would multiply 3, this 3, times this 3, and that would give me 9. And then I multiply this same 3 by this 2, and that would give me, whoops, let me just put that in black so you can see that, whoops, and that would give me, and that was a 9, and that would give me 6. Okay, and then I'd add these two. Let me just write it down right over here. 115 plus 690. Okay, and then I would add 5 plus 0 is 5. 1 plus 9 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. Plus 1 is 8 actually. Let me make that a little bit more legible. There we go. Okay, so then we would get 805. All right, so then that would be the answer, but we still need one more step. Okay, and then the extra step is that we're going to count how many numbers are after decimals. Okay, so bear with me on this one. 2.3 has one number after the decimal, and then 3.5 has one number also after the decimal. Okay, so in total we have two numbers after the decimal. So what we would do here is remember that imaginary decimal we discussed a while back? We said that when we had a whole number, the decimal was always after the ones place. Okay, so we're going to take that imaginary decimal and we're going to count 2 spaces to the left, which is 2 was our magic number, remember? Because there were 2 numbers behind decimals on these two, on the numbers that we were multiplying. So we would count 1, 2, and we would put the decimal right here. Okay, so then the answer for this problem would actually be, the final answer would actually be 8.05. A quick recap on the rules on multiplying decimals. Okay, there's 2 basic steps. Okay, the first step is to multiply the numbers as if they were not decimals, right? So we have we have 2.3 times 3.5. 2.3 times 3.5 in this format, and then the answer we got, we know, is 805. Now, after we multiply the numbers, as if they were not decimals, then the second step is, after we get the answer from step 1, which is 805, we count how many numbers we have after the decimals in that problem. Okay, so we would count the numbers after the decimals, which would be 1, and this one, and then 2, right? Or rather, 1 and then 1, and if we add those up, that is 2. Okay, so when we have our 805, let me just rewrite it down. When we have the answer from step 1, then we would have our imaginary decimal at the end of the ones place of the whole number, and then we would count 2 steps to the left, 1, 2, and right here, this is where we would put our decimal. Okay, so the final decimal is right here, and then we moved 1, 2 to right there. That does not look like an arrow at all. I'm going to write it a little bit more legibly. There we go, something like that. Okay, so then we see that the decimal went from the end of the ones place to between the numbers 8 and 0. Okay, so then the final answer would be 8.05. And that's how you multiply decimals.